I'm Jarrod Kimber, and this is my previews for the T20 World Cup, and in this one, we're doing Australia. So in terms of style of play, Australia kind of have this sort of weak fifth bowler option, and they do that because they have a lot of guys who can bat and bowl a little bit. So, you've got Cameron Green, Travis Head could bowl if he had to, but obviously Glenn Maxwell, Marcus Stoinis. And so because of that, they have a lot of guys who can hit a lot of sixes and give them a little bit of bowling. And then they go with sort of four frontline bowlers. We assume they will start with, their main bowlers of Cummins, Hazelwood, Stark, and Zampa, and then make up a bowler from the rest of their all-rounders. They could even go, especially if Stark continues his poor form, although he's just started to get a little bit better in the IPL, but if Stark fails and they don't want to go with Nathan Ellis, they might even look at trying to get 8 overs out of all their part-timers and bat really, really deep. The one thing that we know about their style is that Marsh and Head and all these guys are going to attack a lot, but they didn't pick Jake Fraser-McGurk, and he might be the most exciting hitter of a cricket ball in the world. So they haven't gone fully in for the sixes, but they've certainly got a lot of guys who are going to go very, very hard. So Australia's 3 match winners are probably just, really obvious, but Glenn Maxwell is the one that I would be most interested in. He's been absolutely, fantastic in the way that he's been able to step up at World Cups and just go to another level. He's not been in great form of recent times, but we've seen that a lot with Glenn Maxwell, and then suddenly it comes up. With the ball, I actually think maybe one of the most interesting ones is Josh Hazelwood, because his ability to take new ball wickets is really important. And it also shows that, unlike some of the other sides that can be a little bit more one-dimensional with bat or with ball, Australia can kind of attack you on both sides. And then I'm going to go Tim David, who, as a pure hitter of seam bowling at the death in the last 3 and 4 overs, he's as good as almost anyone in the world, and Australia's probably never quite fully unleashed him. But if they can get to a longer batting order, and they can get him and keep him right at the end, his ability to score at strike rates of 300 is just absolutely next world. Australia's surprise package is probably, I'm going to go with Nathan Ellis. I'm not sure he will start in the side, but I do think if he does play, he's very hard to hit. And with the form of Mitchell Stark sort of wavering at times, if Mitchell Stark does fail, I almost think that Nathan Ellis suits this side a little bit more. Josh Hazelwood is really good with the new ball, and Pat Cummins is really good in the middle, and Nathan Ellis is really good at the death. That partnership is better. It's not that you would want to dump Stark, and Stark might still actually be their surprise package because his form has been so poor. If he can regain that, he'll be great. But I think Nathan Ellis could be really, really interesting. It's just whether Australia want to go with that and go away from their 3 normal gun quicks. So in that group, Australia have Oman, England, Namibia, and Scotland that they're going up against. Namibia are a handy side. I'm not sure there's anything that will, cause any issues for Australia. Oman are still coming through. They're developing as a nation. They shouldn't cause any problems. Scotland is probably the side that could cause some issues if Australia lose to England, just because Scotland have the power hitting and the flexibility within their lineup to cause some issues for better sides. They maybe haven't been in as great a form over the last couple of years as they were beforehand, but that's probably the most difficult game if Australia lose to England. Australia's biggest challenge might be if it becomes a very spin-dependent tournament, just because they'll have to bring Ashton Agar in, which will change their lineup a little bit. Having said that, they've just won a 50-over World Cup in India, so they're not going to be too worried about that. The other thing is, and they always have this, is how much their 5th bowler gets targeted. They've got all these all-rounders, they're going to jumble it around, and that means that will be, Cameron Green quite often gets hit, Mitchell Marsh can get hit, Marcus Stoinis can get hit, Glenn Maxwell, all these guys can get hit quite a bit. But if Glenn Maxwell has a good tournament, they can maybe overcome that, but it's always the weakness, and it's how the opposition teams maximize those 5th over bowlers. So the pitch conditions for Australia is they're playing a lot in Bridgetown and North Sound, so they're not playing directly in America. But in this sort of a tournament, you're going to have to be very good at, flat batting surfaces. There's going to be a couple of quicker surfaces and spin. That's the thing with the West Indies. So you have a look at Australia. I don't think their spin is quite as strong as some of the other sides. So that might come back a little bit. But they just won a 50-over World Cup with essentially a very similar lineup. So they're not going to be as worried about the wicket spinning a little bit more. Will America fall in love with the Australian cricket team? I don't know, maybe they might be the villains. I mean, in that sort of culture, if in any of the American fans do any research with all the different things that Australia have done before. Look, I think Australia play a really exciting brand of T20 cricket. I don't think they're quite on the level of like peak West Indies or maybe, what England have done. But, you watch someone like Mitch Marsh start to hit the ball around everywhere, and Travis Head and those sorts of guys. I think it could be a decent brand that could get American fans involved. I can see that happening. I'm not sure 100%. When it comes to predictions, I'm not sure 100% who I would have ahead out of Australia and England, but they're both right up there at the moment. And Australia has won a recent World Cup, and I think they're a better side now than when they actually won that World Cup. So I think they have a really good chance. Well, that's it from me on this T20 World Cup preview. Remember to like and subscribe and do all those things that talkSPORT Cricket wants you to do on this channel. We're going to have so much coverage of cricket here. If you're not subscribed, what are you doing with your life?
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.